and gave him the task condition standards on what they need to do, gave him a time hack. And then he comes up to me. He goes, "Hey, sir?" I was like, "What's up, Ranger?" He said, "I don't think my compass works." So I was like, "All right, let me see what you got." I hold his compass, and it's a toy.
Welcome back to Leaders Recon. Today, we're in the Ranger Training Assessment Planning Bays here with Sergeant First Class Garcia and RI at WTC.
What's up?
So, can you give us a little bit of background? We're here to talk about RTAC, the Ranger Training Assessment course. Can you tell us what is RTAC for those that don't know?
RTAC is just a course that's really going to help soldiers move to that next step, which is Ranger School. Some don't use it as that. They might just come to get the leadership aspect of it, but it really is geared towards Ranger School. So it's a mirror image of Darby phase, which is the first phase of Ranger School.
Okay, and how long is the course?
15 days.
15 days, okay. And it's basically a pre-Ranger program run here by the National Guard.
It's a pre-Ranger, yeah.
Yeah, how is, can you give us a little bit of insight? Like, what does the course look like? You said it mirrors Darby, but for those who aren't familiar, like, how does the course break down?
Oh, so like if you want to break it down into phases, I guess there's the first week here would be considered RAP week.
Okay.
Which is really where you get those Ranger assessment physicals, and that's going to be your RPFT or Ranger Physical Fitness Test. Okay. It's going to consist of 2 minutes of push-up, 2 minutes of sit-ups, 5-mile run, and then 6 chin-ups. Then you got to do Combat Water Survival Assessment, the CWSA. And we do ours different than Ranger School in that aspect because we don't want to break everybody off. But that would consist of a don and ditch of equipment where they're in a flick and they just step into the water. They have to ditch the equipment while underneath the water, turn around, face the RI, and tread water for 10 seconds. And then they do a 15-meter swim. Once they complete that, they go off the high dive, which is like a 5-meter drop, and that's just to show that they have no fear.
So there's a few things, and then what else?
So land navigation really is the chunk of RTAC at least. We do ultimately 4 days of land navigation. We have the drift course, which is just a really small area that really helps out the individuals that don't have a lot of land navigation training. So we'll give them that land nav class and give them an opportunity to even just know how to use their compass, the drift course, right? So how is them moving from point A to point B, which way did they drift? Did they drift left? Did they drift right? Are they on with their pace count? Do they have one leg shorter than the other? I don't know. I mean, that's where we can figure it out, you know what I mean? And then so that's the first day. And then the second one is going to be what we call the Sierra land navigations. A little bit bigger. Some would argue that it is harder than the bigger land navigation course because it's very vegetated, very thick. And really, we're trying to get them used to using the LDAs, the roads, use attack points. It's like the easiest way to do land navigation. A lot of people say, I'm just going to dead reckon it. I'm going to go 1,000 meters from this point right here, which I really can't tell on a map where it's at. But if you go from that attack point, you'll be good to go. It's a lot easier. And then we do the 2 big days of land navigate. One's a retest if you have to. And then after that, we do the road march. It's a 9-mile here, 9-mile road march with a 35 pounds ruck dry. That's what we do at RTAC, Ranger School. They do their traditional 12. But other than that, that's pretty much what RAP week consists of. We do boards, or the 20 boards. So your react to contact, squad attack.
Well, that's this, right?
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
Well, they don't even get into this, honestly, until that land navigation. So this is TLPs, troop leading procedures, and that's going into your op order process. So we try not to give them that like day one because they are going to not retain anything, right? We do the 20 board, so react to contact, squad attack. We start getting to Recon, boom, formations and order of movement. And it's the same classes that they're going to get at Darby. So.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but like RTAC is a requirement for National Guard soldiers before they attend Ranger School, right? And all of the, like you guys as RIs are all qualified RIs over.
Yeah, 4th RTB.
Yeah, 4th RTB, which is Ranger School, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. So
can you tell us a little bit about that? Yeah.
Yeah, it's called RTEP. It's a program. It's the Ranger instructor training and evaluation program, and it could take anywhere from like 2 months to 6 months. But yeah, it qualifies us as RIs, even on the active duty side. So we have to go over there. We have to brief the 20 boards. Well, we don't brief them. We give that class as if we were giving it to the students. And so they have an NCOIC over there that will listen to all of us pitch those classes. And you know, making sure that we're including questions, you know, that are going to drive the audience. I get it. They're tired from that CWSA. They're tired from walking 8 miles on land navigation. So, you know, it is kind of hard to keep their attention. But for the most part, we do a really good job with that. In fact, most of the RIs that come from WTC that go over to 4th, we get constant praise from the Sergeant Major because he's always saying like, man, you want to work over here at 4th RTB? I'm like, well, we can't. We're not active duty. But I think the real difference comes from us being National Guard, and we have to apply to come here. We have to put everything we got to even just get hired. Whereas active duty, if you're tabbed, you're probably going to go there, whether you want to or not.
Be assigned.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, you know, what does that look like then? So, like, obviously, Ranger School's a leadership course, right?
Yep,
and
it is
then
a leadership course.
And RTAC is really, you know, preparing you for that. So, you said it was focused a lot on the Darby phase of it. You know, is that what RTAC focuses on primarily?
Yeah,
is just
it's just Darby, because honestly, at that point, you're learning platoon operations once you get past Darby. If you get into mountains, you know, look at the platoon operations, and for the most part, it kind of mirrors it, but you have the basics, that foundation built from RTAC into Ranger School. A lot of people think, you know, Ranger School, I'm going to come here and I'm going to learn how to, you know, get a confirmed kill with an E-tool or something, right? I actually had a buddy say that recently who graduated Ranger School. He thought he was going to learn everything, spies and pries. I was like, no, man.
Like the Ranger School demo at the end is not what you actually learn.
Exactly. It's not the Rangers in action.
So, you know, there's some like, you know, I would say misnomers out there that like RTAC, you know, breaks you down so much that it's harder to get through that first, you know, phase of Ranger School there, Rap Week and whatnot. What, you know, what are some of your thoughts on that, and what have you seen as far as success rate for graduates of RTAC at Ranger School?
So we actually just pulled those numbers just the other day because we had like a VTC that we had to do. But comparing us to other pre-Rangers, we're actually one of the top 3. Our graduation rate is 67%. From RTAC though, it's 56. Like we have a bigger attrition rate because we just want to make sure that they're prepared. It's not that, oh, that guy looks weird, we're not going to pass him. Like he just didn't make the standard. But we definitely provide every opportunity possible to get them to that point at Darby. Because another stat, if you will, is if they make it through Rap Week, it's 80% chance that they will make it through Ranger School. I mean, at that point, you just got to worry about not getting injured, not getting peered out, and, you know, just not quitting. Because there's going to be some days, you know.
Yeah, oh yeah. What about, so peer is obviously a huge part of Ranger School, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know, and learn to really work with others, right? Does RTAC incorporate that as well?
So we do have peers in our FTX. It's not going to be a droppable event, especially because we have students from RTLI, so they don't even have a lot of like adult interactions in the Army.
And that's like those are those students that just go straight from
from
basic
OSIT
training
to RTLI to RTAC. So they haven't really had a lot of experience in communicating and working with soldiers that have been in, you know, for my, you know, example, I went to Ranger School 9 years in.
But everyone's equal, right? Same at RTAC, right?
Yeah, there is no rank. So, yeah, the peers, you know, that provides us opportunity to tell them, because we counsel them throughout RTAC numerous amounts of time, not just over peers, but peers included. And we tell them like, all right, well, this is what your buddy is, this is what everybody's saying about you. Let's see, like, why is this? Why do you think this is? Let's say one of the examples would be, I do not want to share a foxhole with this guy because he has no knowledge. Okay, well, you can't count that against him. He's an RTLI guy who doesn't have a lot of experience. Okay, and I'll relay that to him. Like, don't let that get under your skin, but that just means you need more knowledge. And they'll be like, well, how do I do this? All right. Well, in your off time, which, you know, you get a little bit of off time at RTAC, read through the book, ask questions, ask somebody who's been in for 12 years. I mean, there's sergeant majors that come through this course.
Now, talking about like a little bit of that off time, like what does a typical day at RTAC look like?
So a lot of it will depend on the activities that we're doing for that day. So if we have land navigation, those days are going to be early, especially in the summer, because right, sunrise comes a little bit earlier. We have to make sure that they're done by sunrise. Sunrise being maybe 5:50. You got to do 2.5 hours prior to the sunrise, plus time to prep, plus time to get to the land nav site. I mean, I've came in as early as 2 in the morning for land navigation, and then it can lead as late too. So those days we're doing ambush class, and then the ambush PE, and then you got to get some chow, and then we're going to get some more classes.
Do students get like 3 full meals a day and everything while they're going through
here
RTAC?
at RTAC, yes, yeah. There's gonna be so much food that they're gonna be throwing stuff away, and I hate to see that too. But yeah, no, they have plenty of opportunities, but yet they'll still eat as much as they can. They're still hungry. RTAC's not what it was, 5-6 years ago, and there's a reason for that. But people were getting broke off, just as you said before. I've heard RTAC breaks people off. It used to break people off. I went to Ranger School limping. Yeah. And I was like, man, I don't know if I'm going to make it, but I'm going to go with it anyways. But no, we provide every opportunity. Now they get plenty of sleep too, 6 hours of sleep at a minimum. Make sure they get that, so that way they're better prepared for that next day. Give them the best chance.
Yeah, what does that look like? So you mentioned 50-some% attrition rate when it comes to at RTAC. What are those big droppable events that you see the biggest percentage of people?
Biggest one's going to be the push-ups for the RPFT. Okay. And every class kind of varies when you're talking about the other events. So land navigation, this CBSA, say you just got a bunch of people that just can't swim. The road march, we've had none fail, and then we've had up to 7 fail. Really, it depends on the soldier's preparedness. Like, did he prepare to come here? Did his unit tell him, you're going to RTAC, I don't care? And that happens sometimes. But no, they get plenty of sleep.
So it's a little bit of everything though, as far as the drop goes, like percentage,
Oh yeah, but it's push-ups is the major killer.
So so physical fitness, right? Mm-hmm. And you hit a lot on the land nav. Like, if soldiers come here without a lot of land nav experience, do you think they can get the stuff they need while they're here in the training, or 100%. Or do they need to really prep ahead?
It would help if they prepped. Obviously, that helps out a lot if they can prepare themselves, because it's like Ranger School again is not anything extravagant. It's basic infantry task. So they should know
under
that.
Austere conditions. Right?
Yeah, under austere. While you're tired and while you're hungry, while you're cold. But the classes that we do give, right? So we have like a one major block in the afternoon, and it's one they have plenty of rest. And then actually we altered our POI to ensure we had more of a pass rate. So now we have the 3 days of land nav refresher, if you will. Okay. So we give them the class, they do the drift course. We kind of analyze, like, okay, who's lost in the woods, does not know where they're at, they couldn't find the 1 point. So then we'll counsel them, and then we also give them another class that night. Then they do the Sierra land nav, and we get another feel for them, like, okay, this guy didn't find any points, he found 2 points. Okay, so he's getting it, but we're still going to counsel him, be like, tell me your route plan. What was your decision-making process here? And again, that night we'll give them another land nav refresher.
So it's a lot of training.
I'm telling you, they should not go to Ranger School failing land nav. And that's actually in Derby phase, RAP week, if you will. That's our lowest
thing that people fail.
Yes.
So push-ups then.
Push-ups, 100%.
It's a big thing, right? And I feel like everyone is terrified of, you hear the rumors of I just got 48. I'm in the 48 club, there's like a million. There's a million excuses, right? What are some of your advice for students? Like, hey, you're looking to come to RTAC Ranger School. It's a leadership course on the physical fitness side of it. What's your advice for training to be successful?
For training prior to coming here, I would just ensure you know what the standard is. A lot of people get the misconception that there's an Army push-up and there's a Ranger push-up, but really there's no. A standard is a standard is a standard. I mean, we don't grade excessive. I mean, you either meet it or you don't meet it. Right? There's no RI roulette in that aspect. So yeah, just preparing, knowing what a real push-up looks like. Okay, so making sure that you have that body generally straight, right? You're not sagging in the middle and you're not arching in the back. When you go down, you got to break the plane, right? With your elbow to your shoulder and your back, it's all one plane. And then you fully extend your arm. The best way to do that is like fully lock out, right? So I tell, students as they come to my lane, and I give them the same spiel every time. It's like, all right, I want 49 perfect push-ups. I don't want 100. I don't want 51. I want 49 perfect push-ups. And I'll even tell them, if you start doing this in my line, I'm going to tell you stop, 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 because I cannot grade you effectively, right? So they're like, okay, what do I do, Sergeant? I'm like, all right, go all the way down, go all the way up. Exaggerate the lockout in your arm so I can ensure that you did a full push-up. You go back down, you fully extend. If at any point you need to take a rest, you have to go back to that starting position before you arch your back or sag in the middle, at least until they switch over to the ACFT standards, which I don't know yet when they're going to do that.
So what does that look like then? So like, you're talking about like a lot of the standards, right? And and I've heard in the past when we've talked to some guests, like, hey, just, a lot of Ranger School and being a leadership course is just like, doing the basics well, right? And you kind of hit on that with rep week. Does the same sort of thing apply to just the physical fitness aspect of it, or? Oh,
definitely. You got to have that foundation, and a good foundation at that, in order to build on, right? It's like you playing Jenga blocks, right? So you only have one little crooked stick, and then you start piling on top of that. If you don't have that good foundation, what happens? It just comes toppling down.
Yeah. So do you think a soldier can show up to RTAC just being like a generally fit soldier and be successful, or do you need to prep specifically to get through RTAC and then Ranger School?
I would say you increase your chances the more you prepare, because we have students that just have that natural, okay, he's a generally fit guy, he's got a level head on his shoulder, he has a little bit of that fifth principle of patrolling, that common sense, and just having confidence in yourself, really. That's a big one I see. If you don't have confidence in yourself, I've noticed that really affects your peers. But yeah, it's possible. If someone because I know I wasn't like the best in shape. I was just in my opinion, I was just a regular guy that wanted to be one of the elites. I feel like that was, the infantry pinnacle was to be Ranger tabbed. Yeah. So
like you mentioned something that kind of piqued my interest there, and I was like, confidence in yourself is important for peers at Ranger School. What are some of those traits that you've noticed in students, or you observe, right, going through the course, where you're like, hey, these are the traits that make you successful at this course, individually, outside of like the physical fitness part that we talked.
Okay, so now, and in my opinion, that's where I look for that a lot throughout the whole course, but FTX mainly.
Okay.
Because now they're hungry, they're tired, and now they're leading other students to an objective. So that's where I can really see that, because then you just see that raw person, right? Yeah. Now they're tired, and they're hungry, and they're in a leadership position. Let's see how they act. But a lot of it is, like I'll say, is confidence. If they got that confidence to lead, no matter you make that wrong decision or right decision, this is the place to do that, right? This is the place to make that wrong decision so you can learn from it. A lot of them having that experience helps, but it's not the end of the world, because we give those counselings even after the graded patrols during FTX as well. And you have to have some stamina. You have to be able to have that ruck on your back. All right, so we do the road march, right? 9 miles, it's only 35 pounds dry. It's going to be more than 35 pounds when you go to FTX. So you got to be able to withstand that weight on your shoulders and still have the, noise and light discipline aspect of it. And I think if they have that.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I can remember that in Ranger School being like, I feel like my shoulders were like the most painful thing. Like I carried the weight just fine all the time, but my shoulders hurt through the whole course. Like I don't think it ever stopped.
And I think another more important thing is they have to want it. Yeah. You got to want it. If like the Ranger Creed says, like 110% and then some. If you come here without the right attitude, it'll be noticeable by us, the RIs, but also from your peers. And at that point, you could just be taking up another spot for somebody else who really wants to be here. So just making sure that they have their family affairs and orders at home before they come here, because that's been reasons that That has been a reason that we have dropped students.
Oh, really?
Or they didn't go on to Ranger School when we got them a slot. They passed RTAC. And I get it, everybody has things come up in their family life. So just making sure you plan accordingly for up to, 6 to 8 months, honestly, because some people don't go straight through.
Oh, yeah, that's me. I didn't go straight through.
So yeah, that really helps, having those family affairs in order and just making sure that they're fully prepared and that they want it.
So what was your experience like then, a little bit? So like you went through RTAC?
Yeah, I
right?
went through RTAC in 2014.
Nice. How was that?
That was a lot of it was kind of a blur, but I remember it was February 2014. I had just finished another school, came directly here, and it was kind of I was nervous because I had been to Ranger School before and I failed back in 2005, and it really destroyed me. And so 2005, 2004, that was 9 years difference, and I wanted it so bad, and now it was here. I was like, oh man, I'm in it again. Here we go. What do I do? I'm just going to use all my experience, and it really helped me. So then we went through RTAC, and it was when they did the tab runs. So we had to run from the CTA, from Alpha Company, down to the bottom of the parking lot, touch the tab. If there was a tab, I think people kept stealing it or something. And then we had to run back up. And that was that destroyed my legs. And I am not like I have chicken legs, you know what I mean? So by the time you were even doing a physical event like land navigation, you were just burnt out. But it did help me because it still taught me those 20 boards the way that they should be. Because, as in an infantry unit, sometimes they do things a little bit different than the book says. And we've had to adapt to that because of Iraq and Afghanistan. But going through RTAC really helped me kind of brush back up on the correct way, the 20 boards and, recon and ambush, because not every unit does a recon.
Especially not to that detail, I feel like that's required. Yeah.
No, the detail, it's on our RI narratives, that's 21 pages, of recon. Oh, man. All the way from the security halt, all the way to disseminating information.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my experience. It really broke me off. I was given 2 weeks notice, but I did want it.
Oh, wow.
I was just not ready all the time. And I got a good piece of advice from my platoon sergeant a couple of years ago, and he's like, you ain't never got to get ready if you're always ready. And I wish I would have had that maybe a little bit before, but I ended up making it straight through actually.
Oh wow, because that's a pretty small percentage to go straight through,
right?
It was.
Yeah, I remember my class it's like 410 that actually went to Ranger School, like in process, and 60 something of us went straight through. I mean, we had a graduating class of like 110, but RTAC, we had like the max capacity, which is 120, and I think we ended up with 50, maybe close to 60 students left. But I was limping. Yeah. I was hurting at the end of RTAC. But because of the command leadership that has come, after that, and they kind of changed it up to like, okay, what can we do to increase soldiers' chances instead of just breaking them off and sending them on their way?
And part of that, I feel like, is a little bit of overcoming adversity. I don't know, what have you noticed that with Ranger students? Because I hear, when you go around, I feel like there's always someone with the story of why
they didn't pass.
Yeah, why they weren't successful, right? But it's like, what do you have to say to that? Because like, just to use a personal example, like I had a hairline fracture in my ankle when I showed up to RAP week, and my unit was like, no, like, we got the square away, you have to go now. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna send it, right? Yeah. And secretly wore a brace underneath my ankle or underneath my boot, like on every event the whole time. But yeah, obviously came out on the other end, right? And so, when it comes to like, you talked about wanting it, going through adversity, like, what's your advice to students as they're, or potential students, potential candidates, right, on what they can do while they're at their unit in an M-Day status or whatever to help prepare themselves so that when they get to RTAC, they can be successful?
So there's a lot of resources out there, actually. So, one, you have leadership within your organization. Yep. Talk to them. Ask them, like, hey, what could I do to better prepare myself? The experience is all around you. You just got to grab it, right? But there's also resources like the RTTs, which is on the ARTB website.
Okay.
So they can go from their home, nice comfort of their recliner, kick back, having eggnog because it's Christmas, go ahead and pull up that laptop, fire it up, go to the ARTB website, look up RTTs, you can download it, print it, and it is the verbatim what they need to know. You could also, there's RTTs, your leadership. You can even check out podcasts like these.
Oh, here we go. Shameless plug, guys. Shameless plug.
No, but talking about what you said before, I feel like everyone has a story.
Yeah.
The biggest thing is you either come back with a tab or you come back with a story. Right? There's a million reasons why. I could tell you the story why I failed in 2005, but I chose, to not necessarily forget that, but to learn from it. I was like, okay, messed up this. How can I fix it? Hey, Sergeant, I really suck at this, and I ain't afraid to say it. What can I do to be better at it? And if he doesn't know, sorry, could you lead me in the right direction of somebody who does know? And if he's a good leader, not all leaders have the answers, but they know where to find it. He can let somebody else know, and then, just seek out that leadership. There should be someone in your chain of command, hopefully, that knows, basic infantry task, and if not.
Well, and that's what I was kind of, when people ask me, what does Ranger School teach you, right? My canned response has always been Ranger School teaches you about yourself, right? What are some of those things that, when you were a student and then, now as an instructor and you see students all the time, what are some of those things that you think you see the biggest evolution in from, a brand new RTAC soldier that you have here to seeing them when they come out at Victory Pond?
Well, when I see them come out of Victory Pond, they got a smile, a grin from ear to ear. But it's really a sense of confidence. I guess I keep going back to that word, but I mean, it must be the key factor here, because I know that when I went through, the biggest thing I learned about myself, or the biggest thing I learned, was how much I can endure, how much I can push through. Even wanting to quit. There was many days I wanted to quit. I mean, that ruck on my back in mountains, I can still feel the pain in my back right now. That's why I'm slouched. No, I'm just kidding. And I wanted to stop so bad.
Yeah.
And, I kept telling myself, I had a buddy that told me right before I left, one foot in front of the other. Just put one foot in front of the other. And I kept doing that, and I was like, but man, this ain't working. It still hurts. So I actually went to go bend down, where you slouch over and you slide that ruck up on your shoulder to get a little bit of that weight off. And I was like, this is it. I'm done. I'm not moving. They're going to have to pull me from this position. Well, some Ranger student behind me wasn't paying attention, had his head down, looking at his feet, probably thinking the same thing I was, and bumped into me. And I was like, whoop, I guess I'll quit tomorrow. So that guy got me my tab. And I tell students that all the time, that you're not going to be the only. If you come here and just be an individual, you won't get your tab. Your buddy's going to earn your tab, or you're going to help your buddy earn his. So when they're in that leadership position, and when they have to make sure 360-degree security is being met, but he's busy over here, I'm placing the gun, telling him what his principal direction of fire is, and someone over here is sleeping, right? But he's not in that leadership position. We now do not have 360-degree security.
Yeah.
So,
well, and it's like I feel like almost like doing the right thing even when it's really hard, right?
Having
it's
that integrity.
Yeah. What's do you notice that at RTAC here? So once you get through that second physical fitness test, because that's the last thing, right? Is that the last thing before, the last of the graded events?
So Rap Week and RTAC will consist of the RPFA, which is the same as the RPFT, except you only do a 2.5 mile run.
Okay.
Because we're trying to lead them up to that. And then we have the land navigation, then we have the RPFT, then the CWSA, and then that 9-mile road march.
Okay, so the 9 miles is the last thing. So I guess, so after that road march and you made the last round of cuts, right? Do you feel like the relationship changes with the RIs to a lot of mentoring and stuff as they go through the FTX to help prep them? Or what does that look like?
I don't think necessarily RIs change their approach or anything, but that's where the students really get to feel the mentoring, the coach teach mentor, because in the first half we're just trying to give them the information, and we make sure that they know it, and we just grade them on the physical events. We assess them. But once we get to FTX and we're actually in the field and we're like, we're right there on the ground with them, and I'm getting down in the prone, and I'm like, see, this is what it should look like. All right, this is what I'm looking for, sectors of fire at a strong pointed position. And they see it, they feel it, we're all a part of the mission. And I think that's where it really clicks for the student. Like, they got past the rap week, they're good to go. And you'll start to see a little bit more smiles on their face. They don't feel like they're under so much pressure. But that's not for them to become lackadaisical, because I know when to turn it on and I know when to turn it off. If you start messing up, you know what I mean? We start losing accountability, things are going to start getting bad real quick, because there's a standard.
Yeah.
And we're here to make sure that we teach you the right way, so that way when you go over to Derby phase, you're good to go, man.
Solid.
You're good to go.
So I guess, do you have any, you talked a lot about resources. Do you have any like last minute, words of wisdom or piece of advice that you give to prospective students out there?
If someone came up to me saying, what do I need to know prior to coming to RTAC? And, I was in a hurry and I maybe had like 30 seconds. I would just say, just make sure you really want it. Get your family orders in a fair. Never quit. And always be a battle buddy, right? You always got to look out for everybody else, to include yourself. But those 4 things, like just a quick, you got to want it. I'm telling you, you have to want it, because you will want to quit. And that's normal.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like anyone who says they didn't want to quit is just like, they're lying to you.
They're just like, oh, it was easy. Like, I lost 34 pounds. I had a buddy that only lost 6 pounds. So I'm like, I don't get it. Metabolism.
Yeah. I don't know. I went through in the winter. It's a different game.
Yeah, for sure, 100%.
I hate the cold anyway, and now I just absolutely hate the cold. Like, didn't change anything. So.
No, definitely.
But anyway, well, thanks for coming out and sharing some of your experiences here, giving a little bit of insight on RTAC and what some of these soldiers can do. So.
Sounds good, sir. Come on by. You're tabbed. You can be an RI yourself.
One day, maybe. Thanks for tuning in to Leaders Recon today. If you liked today's episode and you'd like more information, visit our social media pages in the links below, or visit us online at www.nationalguard.mil/leaderdevelopment. If you liked today's episode, please don't forget to subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. You can find us wherever you listen to your favorite podcast.